Hello and welcome to Smaulgld's update on the Russian central bank's gold and overall foreign reserves for the month of September 2016. The Russian central bank added 500,000 ounces of gold to its reserves in September, which is roughly equivalent to 15.55 tons. From January 2016 through September 2016, Russia has added over 125 tons of gold to reserves. September's gold edition brings Russia's gold holdings to over 1,542 tons, which is the sixth most of any central bank in the world. The Russian central bank has been adding gold faster, about 50% faster than the People's Bank of China, which is the second. In the last couple of years, the Central Bank of China is the central bank that's buying the second most amount of gold in the world. Overall, Russian reserves are up 7% since January, from 371 billion to 397.7 billion. In 2015, Russia added a world-leading 208 tons of gold to reserves and has added every month this year to its gold reserves, bringing its total up to the 1,542 ounces. Take a look at the chart. This blog post was posted yesterday. I generally get this out first to Smaulgld subscribers before I do a YouTube report on it. So if you want to get this report the day that the Russian central bank issues its gold reserve numbers and the analysis that I do on it, please fill in your email address on smaulgld.com and you'll get that blog post updating the Russian gold reserves the moment it is published. That is one that I do send out as soon as I publish it. I don't send out all blog posts, but this is one that is very popular and I send it out right away. So if you want that blog post and not have to wait for the YouTube on it, please subscribe to Smaulgld. Now, here's the chart that's included in the blog post that shows that in a little over a year, the Russian central bank has gone from 1,281 tons to 1,543 tons, or just slightly under. This chart shows from January 2014 to September 2016, the Russian central bank consistently adding gold to its reserves, and in many instances adding over 600, 700, 800,000 ounces a month, and in some instances well over 1 million. Russia has added approximately 14.9 million ounces during the time period showed on this chart from June 2014 to September 2016, and that's about 465 tons. If you are interested in purchasing gold, want to be like the Russians, you can purchase your precious metals through Smaulgld.com. We have a variety of affiliates. If you click on any of these links, you can check out their pricing and shipping. And also, Smaulgld will get a small commission, which helps keep the site operating costs under some level of control. The commission is not very great, but again, you pay no more, no less if you purchase through Smaulgld. So if you're interested in purchasing gold or any other precious metals, please consider doing it through the Smaulgld site. Here's a chart that shows the comparative purchases or additions of gold to the Central Bank of China and the Russian Central Bank's gold reserves. And almost each and every month you can see the red represents Russia, the blue represents China. Russia's tacking on a lot more gold than China is. Now, that opens the question, China's lying, China has more gold than that. To be very clear, this is the Central Bank of Russia versus the People's Bank of China. Both are communist nations. Both own effectively whatever they want to own in terms of private property. So China, it's well established, mines more gold than Russia. They're the world's leading gold mining country with 460 tons, I think they reported last year, of gold mined. Russia mines about 380, which puts them in second or third place, depending on which documents you look at. Australia is probably the third or second. But the point being is that what China chooses to report at the central bank or the People's Bank of China is one thing, and how much gold is actually in the country of China is entirely another thing. And I've done a blog post on that called The Case of China's Missing Gold, which goes through where all that gold that they produce, mine domestically, which they don't export, and all the gold that they import into the country, where it might be. And it's clear that it's with other banks owned by the People's Republic of China. It's just not all in the vaults of or on the balance sheet of the People's Bank of China. It's also with wealthy individuals. It's also in sovereign wealth funds. Now, we don't get to see the evidence of this gold because they don't publish those reports that shows where the gold is, but obviously the amount of gold that heads into China, the amount of gold that they produce in China would clearly give China more than the gold that they report on their balance sheet of the People's Bank of China. But in any event, as far as central banks go, you can see Russia is adding gold to its central bank reserves much faster than China. Now, Russia only has, as we saw above, about less than 400 billion in foreign reserves, whereas China has 3.5 trillion. So the size of the country's reserves are far different, and Russia just happens to be adding more gold to its central bank than China is. As we mentioned, China, see, they have 1,839 tons on the People's Bank of China's balance sheet. Well, if they're adding 460 tons a year just through domestic mining production, they'd pick that up in 4 or 5 years. And clearly, they import massive amounts through Hong Kong and an undisclosed amount through Shanghai. So that amount is definitely lower than the total amount in China. There's the Russian central bank placing it in 6th at 1,543. One important note on the top 10 and even in the top 20, and actually in basically all central banks, is none of these countries' central banks are adding gold. Other than Kazakhstan, it's only Russia and China that are adding gold to the reserves. India's number has been that way for years. Netherlands has been there. Netherlands did repatriate some gold from the United States, but they didn't add any. Same thing for Germany. Germany's been at this number for years. The United States has been at this number since 1971, 8,133, and that amount hasn't even been audited since the 50s. Italy, France, same thing. Switzerland was selling gold 10 years ago. They haven't added any in a long, long time. So it's really these two countries, Russia and China, that are pushing up their gold reserves, while the rest of the world seems to be content to either hold on to what they have, or if they're worried about where their gold is stored, like Germany and Netherlands and Belgium, I think Austria, a few other countries did repatriate some of their gold from the New York Fed, but they haven't added any gold in any meaningful amount, if at all. You can also, if you look at the blog post, we go through the foreign reserves. I'm not going to go through them. Russia's foreign reserves. Also, we have a chart on Russia's Treasury bond holdings, which contrary to I guess, popular alternative media belief, Russia is not dumping its treasuries. It already did that, and then it's built them back up over the last year, as you can see by this chart. Go to the blog post, you can see what I'm talking about. This chart is interesting to see how Russia actually turns its depreciating ruble over the last year into gold. It basically has bought up a good portion of its mining production, an increasing amount of its mining production each year. So it makes total sense. If they own everything in the country, they take their ruble and they just go to the local domestic miners and they purchase their mining supply and they add it to the reserves of the country. It's actually been quite an effective process of turning rubles into gold and shoring up their forex position. Anyway, that's it until next month. So if you want to receive the Russian central bank update or the Chinese People's Bank of China updates, or any of the other gold and silver updates or breaking news that we managed to break at Smaulgld, please enter your email address here and you will get those updates as they come out. And also please remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks for listening.